I want to bring up Chris Beard, a PhD poetry student, to introduce Alan Michael Parker. So, here we go.
Hello. We are truly excited to have the inventive, exciting, and accomplished writer, Alan Michael Parker, with us this evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Alan Michael Parker is the author of 3 novels, Cry Uncle, Whaleman, and The Committee on Town Happiness, as well as 7 collections of poetry, Days Like Prose, The Vandals, Love Song with Motor Vehicles, A Peal of Sonnets, Elephants and Butterflies, 10 Days, and his most recent, Long Division, a finalist for the 2013 University of North Texas Rilke Prize, an award recognizing a book that demonstrates exceptional artistry and vision. Parker's Long Division was also a finalist for the Eric Hoffer Award, the Brockman Campbell Award, and the winner of the 2012 North Carolina Book Award. His work has been anthologized in Best American Poetry 2011, has won 3 Pushcart Prizes, and he has had more than 200 of his individual poems published in literary magazines, including the American Poetry Review, Gettysburg Review, Kenyon Review, the New Republic, New Yorker, Paris Review, Pleiades, and the Yale Review. He edited Imaginary Poets, co-edited 2 other volumes of scholarship, and serves as faculty member at 2 writing programs, Davidson, where he has taught for 15 years and is director of creative writing, as well as at Queens College, where he is a core faculty member in their low residency MFA program. The sheer number of his literary accomplishments can seem overwhelming, but in Long Division, numbers are instead used to confront what is overwhelming. The meaning of anniversaries, a death of a mother, the daily grinds of middle age. As Parker writes at the closing of Family Math, all the math will change again. More to busy me, more to figure and record, more to have, more to let go. Parker uses lists and numbers to carefully organize what life challenges us with, and in the course of his poems reconsiders received meanings and then surprises us with what's discovered. These poems take the ephemera of common lives of suburbia and imbue it with a kind of wonder. The agitations which normally unsettle our thoughts instead become the sources of imagination, as in the titular moment from Music from a Passing Car. Music from a passing car, a mix of sex and vanity driving away too slowly, and camaraderie and embarrassment, and the desire to distort the body into thunder. Or how when Parker considers the social faux pas of a neighbor whose holiday lights stay up all year, he reimagines the lights as like lamps lit for all those husbands lost at sea. His poems discover opportunities for beauty in the face of frustration, difficulties, and losses, as the sharp wit of complaint morphs into tender moments of empathy. They navigate expertly between cleverness and feeling. For instance, we're delighted in his poem 15 Ways to Think About Italian Opera at observations like the radio looks so underdressed. But by the poem's close, we are also caught by the emotion of the lines. The part of the grieving father tonight will be played by the grieving father. The result is both funny and poignant. In Parker's reinvented poetic spaces, then, we continually get what we don't quite expect, comedy woven into sadness, and clarity drawn from disorder. His fables are not didactic or moralistic, but heartfelt and inquisitive, and his lists are not reconsiderations of the same idea, but rather advancements of ideas, and often opportunities for new thought. It is consistently both playful and sincere. So everyone, be excited. This reading is going to be fun. Without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Alan Michael Parker.
I'm mic'd.
I'm mic'd? I'm mic'd? Yes? No? I'm mic'd? I'm mic'd.
You can just come do this and I'll sit. That was great. Thank you.
And thanks to my hosts. Thanks to all of you. It's been a great day already. I'm looking forward to more, to hanging out with you, torturing you with my poems. So I'm going to read from 3 collections in print and a forthcoming volume. But I'm going to focus the reading coming back to often the poems from Long Division. And again, I am grateful for the recognition. A Fable for Our Anniversary. This is on page 7 in your hymnals. You asked to be surprised, and so I traded our last sack of rice for a little knife curved into a smile. The knife for a bit of cloth embroidered by a prisoner, the cloth for a monkey who was never nice. The monkey for a bowl of sayings, the sayings for a pair of silver candlesticks, the candlesticks for a goose. The goose bit the dog in the courtyard. So I traded the goose for a pink bonnet that makes the wearer invisible. Who would want to be invisible? I traded the bonnet for a sheaf of wheat that shone in the garden for a little while, like a giant piece of golden jewelry. The wheat for a desk, solid as a bad idea, the desk for a couple of tickets to a show. Love, we could go to the show, but the show would end. I traded the show tickets for an old trousseau, its linens flush with lavender, because I knew a man who would give me a magic goat for the smells kept between those sheets. But first, the man made me fetch a cup of coffee from the deli, which I did. Cream, no sugar. An epic quest. It was one of those dawns that didn't and then was. The crows were calling in their office across the street, all that old business of the soul and such, but don't you worry. I wasn't scared. And now, I have a goat. I lead him home, pat his head, and say the words I'm supposed to say. Careful, those words are powerful. Until the goat begins to float into the air, bleating a bit and huffing outside our bedroom window. Wake up, sweetie. We've been married for 25 years. I brought you a magic floating goat. We had a real good afternoon and evening talking a lot about form and theory and the ways in which form provides the motion of a poem and emotion provides the form of the poem and the kind of dynamic between those. So I thought I'd read a poem that's in an invented form, a nunce form, as it were. So this is a form that I have invented myself with my brain. And it has a couple of cameos in it. I should tell you first in advance that people they stream through here, you might recognize a guy named Updike, who's an American writer. He's here. His books about a particular protagonist named Rabbit. So Rabbit is here. Rabbit and Updike are both here. Mr. Popper is here. Mr. Popper's Penguins, not the movie. Ugh. It's like Jim Carrey, right? It's not so much. Ugh. The form is so my partner she hates this joke. So the form is actually it's called a Canadian, and it's 54 lines, and it's written the rhyme scheme. It's got one rhyme. It's a single rhyme. So the rhyme scheme, ready? A. It's a Canadian. She's Canadian. A. The Librarian's Song. Her husband has run off with a jogger. Looking for Updike? Check the computer. She is called Main Branch. Put in for a transfer. Her husband has run off with a jogger, a dancer, a waitress, somebody younger. Looking for Updike? Consider the books about Rabbit, a prisoner of America. Each year, twice a year, for 5 years, she is put in for a transfer and obliged when asked to wait longer. No longer. When Main Branch calls back, the librarian swears they better deliver. Her husband has run off with a jogger she found out earlier in the books on astronomers have all disappeared. And her boss wants her to find out to where. Looking for Updike? Try literature. Looking for a husband? Try joggers, comma, younger. What is it with astronomers? Each night, her husband would stare at the stars as though he were there. Maybe he thought he was Mr. Popper from the children's book, See Children's Literature. She's never sure anymore. If the astronomers are gone, where are the stars? Her husband has run off with a jogger whose breasts are firmer, younger, a dancer, and a waitress, a star of a life not hers. Looking for Updike? Try post-war. When he called from the highway, the librarian could hear his voice, and she thought he was dead, but they were talking on the phone. The computer was down, and the cars in the background roared. She could hear the jogger giggle, titter. That's what a young jogger would do, she'd titter. And then when he told her, the librarian wept right there, at her desk, in front of two strangers, a woman and her daughter. The astronomers, the librarian cried. Wherever they are, they're there. Simone de Beauvoir has a cameo here. The great French writer, feminist. The cat. I've been trying to understand whether this life is what we burnish for the next, or will we be undone? Last week, a feral kitten found me, and now, mottled with ringworm, she moans in quarantine in my kitchen and hugs a catnip mouse made of felt. A scrawny, contagious cat in a kennel. She could be my heart, which is to say, yowl, darkness, prison, which is to say, aria, nocturne, home, which is to say, pushing words around, the inbox and the out. I named the cat Simone de Beauvoir. Is that the name of my heart? I don't even like cats, which she pretends not to know. What does my heart pretend not to know? Working at love means abandoning the burnishing. When I first saw her almost dead in the street, I sat down and waited. She circled me, coming closer, until I was stupid and put out my hand. The two of us, in the middle of the street. How could she think I know anything, sitting in the middle of a street? Now, near the end of her sentence, she scratches the plastic kennel to get out. What could she know? Which is to say, need. Which is to say, fear. So many poems about the next life. To make the poem itself a moral act, which is to say, heaven, which is to say, a larger room. Here's a new poem. That means that was an old poem. Warm night, stay. Warm night, stay. The bed, the room, the block, the city, the taxis, cutting to. The outside pours away between your fingers, dreamer, as they twitch a little, resting on my chest, the prow of the dream. Warm night, stay. Warm night, stay. A strand of hair dreams a river. Warm night, stay. Your nightgown twists your hip tight, and you scratch above your breast, half a scratch, half a moon. Warm night, stay. The leaves of the ficus by the window rustle, one side reel. That's what a dreamer is, one side reel. Warm night stay, the sheet and blanket pile sloughed upon a mountain dreamed. Warm night stay, the sheet and blanket pile in a cloud clapped by a dreamer. Warm night stay, the sheet and blanket pile galloped by a dreamer. Warm night stay, your right leg rolls upon me, how a dream rolls and settles, weighs. If I move, you move. Warm night stay. The windows open, the curtains hold. Warm night stay. The sink yawns. Warm night stay. The table sleeps the sleep of the dreaming foal, the womb. Warm night stay. Love, stay. Warm night, stay. Propped into dreaming on the deck of the ship of the warm night, dreaming, rocked by the little steamer of your breathing, wherever you are going. Warm night, stay. You've heard the ending of this poem. I'm going to give you the rest of it. And then the ending. Supposedly, when I'm thinking about my work, I begin to scratch my head. This is apparently one of my tics. I have many, but just so you know, that's a sign. I don't know. Family math. I am more than half the age of my father, who has lived more than twice as long as his father, who died at 36. Once a year, for 4 days, I am 2 years older than my wife, until her birthday. In practical terms, I am 3 times older than the internet, 12 times the age of my obsolescent computer, 5 times older than the new century, and only now a half century old. I've taught for more than half my life. Most afternoons of teaching follow unfinished mornings. Yesterday, I held a book 7 times older than I am. 28 hours and a few minutes later, I still recall the smell, a leathery, mildewed tang. 17.5 years ago, my son was born, which took 12 hours. His delivery came 2 weeks late. The smell in the delivery room seemed primordial. Iron in the blood and shit and another kind of smell, more abstract, if that's possible. 26 years ago, I studied abstract ideas in school, and I still don't know what's possible. Now, I teach. My mother taught for 29 years until she retired to read. My friend remembers all he reads. So when does he finish a book? I can't remember when I stopped counting on my fingers. Where was I in language? I feel older than all the wars going on, but I'm not. Some are very old. Sadness remains the source of my politics. In my home, very few items I own are older than I am, and almost none I use. We say, the wind dies down. Is that what we mean? The wind has lived? When babies are born, they don't know either night or day. We teach them. Tomorrow is not my birthday, but all the math will change again. More to busy me, more to figure and record, more to have, more to let go. You're very quiet. Are you scared? You're scared. It's Halloween. You're scared. I scared you. Scary poems. I was talking a little bit earlier about this poem, or at least about a moment in this poem. I don't actually think you need to. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you got it. You're on it. Whatever. Postcard from Spain. Thanks for your card. I like hearing from you. What a great picture, too. There must be 1 million people on that beach in Barcelona. So many outfits and towels and umbrellas. And your notes, Rye, quote, the cyber cafe has the cheapest postcards, end quote. It's different these days. Even a little eerie that a postcard can be from a life lived 2 weeks ago, now that the internet has made the past and present one. And Instagram and Tumblr together are like the Big Bang. You're everywhere at once in Spain, with a toothache at the pharmacy, sipping an icy lemonade in a park, then dipping your bandana in the fountain, finding the darkness in you is Goya's. But I'm so glad you wrote and thought to share. Thank you. Yes, I'm mostly recovered. The family's well, though no one understands Aunt Martha anymore, which has an upside. You know what Aunt Martha can be like. I appreciate your thoughtfulness. Thanks to you, I see again the face of the clerk at the post office in the tenderness of her hijab. How perfectly her sigh made her lips purse when she smiled at my awful Spanish and counted out my change slowly in impeccable English, as though I were no smarter than her stapler. But she liked me, I could tell. Our moment was simple, irrespective of her politics or mine. I've been thinking a lot about the light I glimpsed in her kind irony, as though I could see the unflickering candle of her. She liked that I was mailing myself a postcard. The poetic tradition with which you're probably familiar, so that, pardon me for going over this idea of writing a poem in which the poet announces, pronounces, otherwise explores his or her poetics, the Ars Poetica. So I write some of these poems. I'm going to read one, my version, because I'm me. So this is a poem called Cars Poetica. That's not as bad a joke as the Canadian. So you got to be happy for the simple things. Jokes are getting a little better. Cars Poetica. The way the transmission seized up and the front wheels wouldn't turn and the car wouldn't even be pushed helps me to see that what I should do is junk the thing and sing a song about it. Because everyone knows a car's a thing, and things like the body age and break. But a Toyota that won't go seems so sadly less of a thing, somehow there and yet disincarnate. What is a thing anyway? Is the soul a thing? And my God, what would the cost be to fix something that doesn't have a body? And how would you fix it? Because how would you find it? And if my soul is broken, how will I? That car was supposed to go when called, to clatter up the circular drive in the darkness brightly pricked with fireflies, and to arrive under the portico, and there be greeted by a host of pimply valets in their mock tuxedos and running shoes, who would jostle each other to spirit my sensible and noble Toyota away. I was once a teenaged valet, and I loved being in other people's cars, which felt like being out of my body and driving around in other people's bodies. What I imagined sex might be like, until I had had sex. Go ahead and rip my guts out, I might as well have said to the mechanic as we stood under the lift and stared up into the rusty belly of the beast, since both of us knew I wasn't being serious. I was projecting, which I do, seeing myself in another body, because I like doing that. And why not? And why not have an excuse for my recent weeping, a reason to mourn the inanimate Toyota that never had a chance to feel what I felt when the mechanic spat on the floor of the service bay, and I did too, out of cold-heartedness or manliness or faith. He can hear you. Oh my gosh. Bring out your dad. If you're dead, raise your hand. Oh, yeah, well, okay. I'm going to read a couple of list poems. So these poems, there are a lot of list poems. I've written a lot of list poems. These are the survivors. And they're poems that I came to understand in the course of the writing. I hadn't started this way, and then when I wrote a number of them, I realized this, that they're actually dramatic monologues. And when I went back to think through the genre challenges, the dramatic monologue, I began to understand much more about my own tendency to write these poems, the list making, etc. I have so I'm OCD, right? So I count everything. Like I know how many rows are here. I know like how many seats are empty over in that. It's good for prosody. It's not so good for some other stuff. 18 ways to consider a neighbor whose holiday lights stay up all year. 1, he's hopeful. 2, he's negligent and unable to read social cues. 3, this is how he treats his body. 4, he's secretly against mirth. 5, he's obsessed with Immanuel Kant's The Critique of Pure Reason, 1781. 6, he is spelling something into space. 7, at breakfast he began to hear the voice of his long-dead hypochondriac mother saying, "Eat, eat!" And then he felt as though slapped suddenly on the back of the head by the air. 8, he knows my father-in-law, and they've conferred. 9, now is the winter of my discontent. 10, he and the mailman and the UPS woman she's new, and the Jehovah's Witnesses dressed like busboys, and the trick-or-treaters, and the meter guy with his can of mace, in the middle of the night, flat whack of the newspaper on the front walk. Who can go anywhere? 11, he's helping me be Jewish. 12, when in Rome, burn. 13, how am I to write a poem for fun? 14, he knows. He never forgets. 15, like lamps lit for all those husbands lost at sea. 16, shh. 17, he's my muse, my indignity. 18, I, with my little words that always go out. Woo! Cameos. Yeah, okay. 22 reasons to return to the store. 1, love. What do you need that I have forgotten? 2, the dance of the cashier, the Matisse she hides all day in her clothes. 3, I make lists. Lists make me. A list is a foray into the problem of time. 4, I looked for Eurydice in every aisle. 5, clean up in produce. Guilt. 6, colors are the forms of desire. 7. Ah, the tumbling life in a wisp of hair that won't stay pinned. All I don't know of everyone. 8. Nothing I am persists. A list stops, but never ends. 9. Have you ever considered that supermarket to be like your head? Note the congruities. Not that I trust allegory. 10. What would Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov do? 11. To resist nostalgia, to live new, to push one's cart out into the lot, climb on the back, and ride. 12. I make it a habit to buy one item each trip that I will not use for months, if ever. In this way, I protest my mortality. 13. She offers the white bird of my receipt. 14. Pay, owe, need, borrow. Pay, owe, need, borrow. 15. Freud writes, quote, there is always the possibility that even our painful and terrifying dreams may, upon interpretation, prove to be wish fulfillments, end quote. 16. She thanks me for bagging. No one at work thanks me. Poems never thank me. 17. Against chaos. 18. Is a wrong decision better than a dearly held regret? 19. The sculptural problem of bagging. The new challenge each time of new materials. 20. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. 21. Ah, love, too much credit. 22. Receiving my change and receipt and coupon. Her fingers touch mine. Thank you. Thank you. A poem for Larry. Anybody named Larry? Never. It's like the dying name. Just like. A poem for Larry. He thought he might swallow whole his youngest daughter if she didn't stop hurting herself. She would complain, of course, carry on inside his big dad belly, but she would be safe there until she was ready to come back. He would swallow the moon to keep her company, one white slice sliding down to arrive in her arms, and he would drink and drink a river so she could see how beautiful. Things would be comforting, stuff to touch, but she would probably need something to do. Maybe he would swallow for her a rowboat with a trolling motor, and maybe a jug of OJ, and maybe even an MP3 player. Ashore, she could ride her own small horse if she wanted. She could eat cheesecake, wear the bangled green skirts, sing badly, softly, always shy, no need for pain. Peace, the fish dreamy, all music. As the cranes or egrets, some kind of giant bird would unfold awkwardly their paperclip bodies, flap in slow-mo their wings, and then launch themselves wide and low over the marsh grass. The stars would burn into the sky behind her, and she would row into the middle of the river, where there's never a mirror, to drift safely, oars up. Change the set list. Okay. So we were talking about this earlier. As though I think I got a vibe from you, I'm now going to change my set list. What the hell? You're not giving me any vibes. Fine. Even do it backwards. So you might have followed this big story in the news about the art heist that then led apparently to the mother of one of the accused who had paintings and who really good paintings and who might have set them on fire and burned them. Maybe. On not burning a Matisse. Because Matisse has been here already, so I figured on not burning a Matisse. If I could pick one work by Matisse to steal and not set on fire, and let my attorney tell the court he wouldn't have set that Matisse on fire, I would probably choose his relatively unknown print, The Nightmare of the White Elephant, before which I would dress up like an elephant, and troika, and curtsy, and do backflips, but hide every time my brother the lawyer comes to play basketball. Even if the image makes me suffer and fills my days with emptiness and racks my night with my own insufficiency and reminds me of my guilt, because even when stolen, any hope is hope. Exhale. Okay, just like real people, except for the one with the nails in her head. Here's a prose poem. That means they're sentences. What? Sentences. The dog misses you. The dog went out to look for you. She wore a big blue ribbon in case of a situation. She circumnavigated the yard. She has been practicing saying, I love you, in every language. Aku sempion, the dog practices saying in Javanese. Te iubești, the dog practices saying in Romanian. She has also been practicing saying, I'm lost, in every language. Cur, kev, prob, lom, the dog practices saying in Hmong. The dog dug a hole along the fence. She's so funny when she digs. All that dirt flying behind her waggling butt. There is surely a different world on the other side of the fence. The fence could be time. On this side, the years are kept. Are you over there? In the afternoon, the dog pulled the leash so hard she lifted off above the trees. You weren't to be found, but there were some remarkable children waiting. Later that night, in the tidy evening, the dog put her blocky head upon the kitchen floor, listening and sleeping, one soft and floppy ear pressed into the future. There, she wondered about the sadnesses that only she could sense. Gudur hunder, the dog practices saying in Icelandic. Mayo inga uro, the dog practices saying in Cebuano. Bon chien, the dog practices saying in French. Good dog, good dog, good dog. And then the dog practices saying in Esperanto, I'm lost, mi perdis. The dog has 3 wishes left. She wishes she knew where to find you. She wishes you would come home with a treat. She wishes you and I were together on the bed. And up she would jump.
Soap opera.
It's better than being heckled. I once was heckled. See, hit the head. So I was reading at KGB Bar in New York, which is downtown. I was in grad school. And I was reading, actually there was a reading with Rick Moody, who was a classmate of mine in grad school. And Rick read, and he pissed off somebody, and then I read. And this guy at the bar, I'm 2 poems in, starts yelling, Uptown Poet! I'm like, uh-huh. Because I took a a soap opera. The role of the soap will be played by my mother. The role of the towel will be played by my father. The role of the mirror will be played by my brother, dressed in a shirt of fog. My students will play the role of the shower. They arrive together and pour over me, only to drain away. My lover will play the role of the flowers. Oh. The role of the floor will be played by history. Here we are, and here we go. The role of the door will be played by Samuel Beckett in a cameo, the in-between door, the patient door. Shall we work from the script or make this up? The camera tracks us from far away. What shall I do with my hands? Wardrobe, I call to death. The role of my face will be played by the clock. The role of my chest will be played by the bottles of pills, the salves, and bandages. When the doorbell rings, the mice will flee to their secret roles. The role of my eyes will be played by twin pennies. The moon will have a walk-on, lumbering through the curtains. Oh, yeah, thanks. Thank you. I mean it, thank you. A poppy seed. And this poem is dedicated to Shezwa Miwoj, whose eyebrows you could see from the back of his head. Is that not true? That is true. You could see his eyebrows from the back. Think about that. That's like not. Think about it. From the back of his head, not like. No, A poppy seed for Shezwa Miwoj. I was on the phone and trying to buy concert tickets, but I was distracted by a poppy seed. Yes, a poppy seed. A single one, the round and hard taste of it. The way it's so clearly never a blueberry between my teeth. There's nothing to explode inside a poppy seed. No memories. It's like an answer. It's so small in light of everything, but still, I try to remind myself there are molecules and atoms smaller. A poppy seed is huge. The woman on the phone was saying, Sir, are you ready? Sir, do you have your information? Are you ready? Sir? But I wasn't ready. I didn't have my information. I had nothing right because I wanted to understand the poppy seed. If we could only talk together like childhood friends, this little moon and me, and the conversation would turn, as it does always later, around the curve of the earth to the possible wholeness of God, for example. Three more. That's the poet's heads up for the exhale, two more, exhale, two more, exhale. And I'm tempted. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the three final poems from the previous two books and then the forthcoming book. 3 poems from each of the books, the last poem in each book, to see what they sound like next to each other. What the heck? Actually, I kind of know what 2 of them sound like, because one's a rewriting of the other one, but you'll see that. This poem borrows a title from the great, wonderful poet Alan Dugan, which means I stole it. Apology to the Muse. Next to me on the downtown local, a spiffy fellow in a pinstriped suit clipped his fingernails. The clippings flying, the graffiti flying, and one piece of fingernail from his pinky caught in the hair of a woman reading. Nasty. Such profanity. But then I said to myself, yo, keyboard boy, what's so great about what you've done today? Your eensy-weensy poem that parades how you don't believe in war. The least little moon of a fingernail knows better, wrapped in that beautiful curly hair, about how to make a stranger snap shut the news and gasp from living. Feeding a poem to a horse. An apple would be better. Bitten down like the moon to a crunchy nub scored with greed. His lips flare in the air from the fence of his teeth, and his tough tail flicks where the flies stay. A carrot would be better than these four-legged lines that flee from me and never meet any sweet little need, so we both might gallop wild and away. So here you'll see I have, in my way, rewritten that poem. And this is the final poem in the new collection, and it's called A Little Chat I'll Have with the Very Next Horse I Meet. And thank you for your patience. Please, Master, teach me to shuck the wrong blanket, spurn the wrong touch, to turn so surely with others, and not to plod, and not to dunder, and to be better at being awake. Look, the clouds are scampering together like cousins after dinner. How do you stay so still as the light stampedes over the hill and over the two far trees, and you all hoarse in the nothingness? Teach me to shudder off what bites me, Master. Teach me to welcome someone home. Not to trust, and then to trust. Not to run, oh, to run. To stand for handling, to let myself be loved. To be bigger than I am, to arch and stretch and bite the fruit over the fence. Death scares me, Master. To praise the air with form, to go where my legs will go. There's a balance to the body, Master. Will you share? To step across the meadow, to trot through the gully, to prance on my fingertips and toes. Thank you.